The secret ingredient of love potion number 9 is pragma. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to, love potion number 9. This is a movie I've heard of plenty in the past, but never seen, and I don't actually know anything about it. I've just heard people mention it a lot. So I don't know what I'm getting into with this, but continuing our theme for the month of February, the Greek word for love that we are using this time is pragma. Pragma is a type of love that is based on duty, logic, or obligation. It is practical love. And I believe it's where the term pragmatic and practicality come from, where those terms originate. This is a love that is categorized by, like I said, kind of duty. It rather than like love. It's all about like the need to do something and desire to like make something work rather than an actual like romantic or sexual interest in a person. And this can be manifested in various different ways. You know those stories about people who enter into relationships or marriages in order to help someone immigrate and whatnot? That would be an example of pragma. Other examples I see here would include like being in a relationship with someone in order to help take care of them if they have special needs or whatnot. Which a lot of people could also find problematic for a number of reasons, but that's not really the point here. And I'm not necessarily talking about like handicapped people or whatnot, or like autistic people, but like people who are in a relationship based on that commitment because they need help and they form a relationship through that. It is also can be like just very business-like, very practical, and it focuses a lot more on that. But it can grow over time into something like more romantic and whatnot. A lot of times you can hear of stories where a relationship starts this way but then ends up becoming like very romantic and passionate over time. So with that, and without knowing what this movie is actually about, how do I think that this movie will connect to that? Because I've been told by the donator, Venom, that this is a good movie for that. Well, the title actually, I feel, gives a lot away here. I feel the title, like, a lot of times titles will be very vague. A lot of times they won't tell you much unless it's like part of a series or something where you know what to expect, or if it just tells you the base idea of what a film is going to be about. Like, oh, wrong turn. They take a wrong turn. It's like, okay, yes, but there's a lot more than that. That is the most base level of what the movie is about. But with this, love potion number 9 implies quite a lot. In most media, a love potion is depicted as a potion that creates love. It is a potion that creates or manipulates a person's feelings for someone else. Usually it's depicted as like, oh, you sneak a love potion into someone's food or drink, or you sneakily make them ingest a love potion in some way, and it makes them fall in love with you. Obviously, there's a lot of moral and ethical issues with that. It's really fucked up, but it's a concept that's nothing new. Like, even Gravity Falls had an episode that touched on this. But it's like, Okay, so what does number nine mean? Well, that implies that there was probably other experiments, like maybe they were trying to make a love potion and the ninth attempt succeeded, or maybe something like throughout the film there are nine love potions that are taken, and that like somehow affects how the relationship goes and all. Now, also with this concept, a love potion, turning from something of practicality and structure and whatnot, this could easily evolve into a more real relationship through that, like pragma sometimes can. I'm just wondering, like, okay, so is the love potion gonna be like made for like practicality in terms of, oh, I need a partner for this or whatever, and so let's just make someone fall in love with me so it's more believable or something? Which again, the moral and ethical dilemmas of this would be insane, but it gives you a lot to theorize with. While other movies will just like be one word with its title and just tell you practically nothing, or even if they're like a really long title but still don't give like enough detail to explain. Um, like for example, I just saw Captain America: Brave New World. What does that say? The only thing you can really get from that is that it's a Captain America movie. What is Brave New World could mean anything. It's super vague. It sounds nice, it sounds patriotic, but it also sounds very vague. So it's like you can't really get a huge amount from that. But something like this tells a lot more. There is a lot more um, detail and a lot more to work off of with a title like this. And that's really interesting. Because what if I'm completely fucking wrong? What if this movie has nothing to do with that kind of stuff at all? That would be wild. And actually kind of funny. Because like you have a movie title that expresses a lot and it just isn't about that. Like that would be genuinely really surprising and funny. Especially if it was intentional. But yeah, that's what I'm kind of getting from this title and what I'm kind of like expecting from the movie based on it. But I could be wrong, or I could have like certain details wrong. It might not go exactly the way I'm thinking it might, and I'm fine with that. I like to be surprised, so I'm just saying that the title does give me some ideas, and that's fair. Going into a movie completely blind, otherwise, like forming ideas off of a title is completely reasonable. But yeah, I don't know when this came out. I don't know who's in it. I've just heard people mention it before, and it's usually been in positive discussion. I've heard people talk about it in regards to romantic films, I believe. Like I think I heard someone like try to compare it to like Love Actually at one point. Which, mind you, is a very interesting film for a number of reasons, but still. Um, I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting myself into, and I'm very curious to see what this love potion is, how it works, how it's tackled. I also want to see just who's in this. Um, because sometimes you get some movies that it's like, oh, you want Anthony Mackie, you want Sam Jackson, you want Nicholas Holt. It's like have a powerhouse group of cast here, just out of nowhere. Yes, I'm talking about the movie we just also reacted to recently. That for some reason I am blanking on the name of the banker. The banker. Yes, I'm talking about the banker. Just as a random example. But yeah, let's get into this movie and see what it's about. Hold up just a second there. Before you click that link in the description below to go to today's reaction, I want to take the moment to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions, with 2 every day except Thursday. We also have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but upload them on the weekend. And don't forget about all the awesome gaming content over on the Princess of Gaming channel. Every day of the week we have some awesome Let's Plays, we have streams, we have all kinds of great content. And please, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and to like this video if you want to see more awesome content such as this. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get to today's video. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So if the lighting and coloration and everything looks a little weird, it's just because it's late. With having to find like the file and everything to switch in there, it affected things, and I have the lights on, but they're normally very yellow tinted, so I had to do some finagling with the filters on OBS, but yeah. So if it looks a little off, that's why. Anyway, sorry about the cut at the end of the reaction as well. The file I had just stopped at that certain point, and it's nothing I could handle. It's nothing I could like do anything about. It literally just stopped working after a certain point, and it was always at that same point. So it was the file. So I had to continue off of an online source, and I just went with that, and we got through the last bit of it. But let's talk about this movie. So I hated this. And it's not because it's necessarily a poorly made film. It's that this movie gave me so massive of an ick that it's crazy. It's like, because I talked about it, I think, in the reaction, that I've seen movies that have had, like, you know, really terrible things happen, really horrible people in it, and it's not the most, like, disturbed or grossed out I've been by a movie. But even with some of those other movies, like Solo and whatnot, it's more, it's a different feeling. With movies like that, it's more of like a horrified disturbance. I'm just like really not handling it well and everything. With this, it's more of like, I'm just like, it's those like ewy feelings you get when like you have the chills, the shivers going up your neck, and it's a lot lighter of a feeling generally. It's like obviously not even slightly comparable to something like Solo, but it's a very different feeling. It's again less of a horrified, disturbing feeling, and more of just like ewy, like I feel gross. It's hard to explain. I hopefully know hopefully you know what I mean. I can't even speak. But yeah, it's just this movie. It is kind of predicated. I really can't speak. Holy shit! It's kind of predicated on some really gross ideas and concepts, and it's like, honestly, a lot of what happened in this movie is like very, very much not healthy or good or anything like that. A lot of what both of them did was very bad. And the problem is they tried to like to fix that by having these two enter a relationship and realize, like, find true love with each other, rather than, you know, false love predicated on a lie and everything. The problem is that their relationship was not as well built up as it was supposed to be. This movie's like an hour and a half long, and I obviously spent more time with that because I paused a lot to talk and cringe and whatnot. Um, but it's definitely not long enough. This movie needed at least 20 more minutes to build up their romance to make it actually feel believable. Because I didn't believe them. I didn't believe their romance. I didn't believe they had actually fallen in love. Because basically, prior to the scene where they're like at the bench and everything and talking about it, he's like, "Oh, but that was a date we went on and everything." It's like, that was a date? Prior to that, there was like practically nothing between them because they hadn't built that up. I was thinking it was going to build that up, and it's just like after this you have like this montage of scenes of them like going on dates and everything. It's like that's not building up a relationship. That's not giving characters chemistry. That's forcing an idea on the audience and treating them like they're idiots. And mind you, this is very clearly a comedic film and it's not meant to be taken too seriously, but it gives, not only does it give a very negative perception of love in any sense, but especially in the sense of like actual romantic love that like again is supposed to supersede this false love based on lies, because it's like it comes out of nowhere and it's just built on nothing. They love does not just happen like that. And there was nothing to actually have. There was no build up. There was nothing that connected them, other than it was obvious they were going to get together in the end. Like that was obvious at the very beginning. But the actual execution of their relationship was terrible. Um, and again, pretty much everything they were doing beforehand, like experimenting with the potion, was really fucking gross. Especially what he was doing, especially with the sorority house, and it's just like I wouldn't want to be with someone who would do that. I'm just saying, I would not want to be with someone who would think to do that. That's really fucked up. And they tried to add a little more comedy in it near the end, like adding in like this stuff with Marissa and getting this entire like huge crowd of people chasing her through the streets. Um, but it's like that felt extremely random. It was clearly meant to be a comeuppance for Marissa, who's like who also manipulated the potion. But honestly, it's like she wasn't the only one who did that. Both of our leads did that just as much, and in some cases a lot worse than her. Like all she did was to steal some stuff to make money. Like our main male lead sexually assaulted young girls with it. Like the fuck? One of these things is worse than the other by far, but it's like that it feels like she's supposed to be a bad guy, just like Gary is. Gary is a bad guy. Gary sucks. He was using our main female lead. I can't remember their names right now. He was using her for sex, and then somehow got a hold of the potion because apparently he read her diary somehow. And yeah, I don't know how he got a hold of her diary to read in the first place, but he I guess did. And so he was manipulating her into marriage for some reason, even though he clearly didn't actually love her. It was absolutely just using her for sex. So why was it? Because she was with a prince? He got jealous all of a sudden out of nowhere and just wanted her to himself, because it's like, oh, she was with a prince. She must be someone now. She must. It's not a well put together film because it just like throws things in there that it like thinks are going to be funny, and it's just like they're not. And then on top of it, it doesn't think some of these plot points through, and they just come across as random or not well thought out at all. It's Yeah, it's a pretty crazy film in that regard. Um, but Marissa wasn't a, like, outside of the theft and everything. and manipulating him into giving her all of his stuff. Like, she wasn't that bad. She was not a villain on the level of Gary or anything, and definitely she was not worse than our main leads. Our main leads were absolutely fucking lootly worse than she was. So the fact that that she gets a comeuppance in the end, even though she kind of turns it around and turns them all into her slaves, but our main leads don't, feels off as well. I feel like it might have been better if they didn't get together, even though it was obvious it was going to happen. It was obvious it was going to work. Um, it just feels like it would have been better if they didn't and had to learn from, their mistakes and realize, like, even if it felt like very preachy at the end, it would have been better if they just gave a message with the narration saying, like, oh, love has to come naturally. You can't force it. You can't fake it, etc., etc. It's like that would have felt better than what they did, honestly. Um, yeah, it's just this movie also felt like extremely rushed, and that kind of goes in with like them throwing in plot elements and not really thinking about how they fit with the film. It felt like it was just going through things like really quickly. Obviously, the marriage to Gary happened really quick. Though that I can see because the idea is the love potion made that happen and made like it all go like quicker than it normally would. That was the point. But it also just felt like the plot was moving by like a million miles a minute. There were a lot of parts that were done through again like uh oh god, what is it called? Montage. Like everything. The only reason we had to like have our main leads in a relationship happen through a montage. There was nothing that set them up prior to that, and it's just like, Jesus fuck. This movie like is meant to be like this kind of cautionary tale over forcing love or faking love, but it's just not, because it doesn't make like true love look good either. It it really doesn't. Honestly, if anything, like the message of this film comes more across as like just love sucks, just why even bother dealing with it in any way, shape, or form. I'm really curious. I want to look up real quick. How did this film do? Um, because if this film did well, I have no goddamn understanding of how. Let me see reception here. I have the Wikipedia still open. Nope. On Rotten Tomatoes, and take this with a grain of salt as always, because of how Rotten Tomatoes ranks their stuff, and also it's just usually not accurate to any reasoning. But Rotten Tomatoes has an approval rating of 25%. Now, mind you, that's only based on reviews from 12 critics, but still. Emmanuel Levy of Variety called it a light-hearted, one-joke romantic comedy. I guess that's fair enough. And that it tries too hard to be cute. Sure. Glib humor and emphasis on feel-good values aimed squarely at the dating crowd and 20-something couples. But lack of real wit and comic vitality, absence of star names, and sluggish pace make pick. It says make pick less appealing than it might have been. Um, Entertainment Weekly gave the film a D grade. So yeah, apparently this movie did not do well. um, there's not much else listed here on the Wikipedia, but let me see if I can find anything else. Let me check the Rotten Tomatoes, because like it's always better to check the popcorn meter, the audience reviews. The audience score is even pretty low at only 44%. I want to see what other people say. Those like let's check some of these audience reviews. I don't always do this anymore. I used to do this a lot more, but okay, so there's some people who are saying like it's cute and fun, good acting, story good. It's like how? But there's one person here who's also saying like, what's with the low ratings for a movie that is clearly tongue in cheek in tone? And it's like, what? That's not the point. Yeah, it's clearly tongue in cheek, but it's still bad. Um, there's this one person on here who's saying it's very artistic. Wow. And saying ahead of his the director was ahead of his time. No. This is like no, this is not ahead of his time. One person on here gives it a 1 star out of 5 and says a couple of people who use the method of manipulation to abuse others without their consent. Yes, 100%. Um, one person says one of Bullock's worst. Sandra Bullock. One of her worst. Oh, here's a half star. Only way I could watch this god-awful film was on fast forward. Don't think I missed much. Got the gist of it and saved myself some time. Here's another half star. Love Potion number 9 is one of the stupid movie... This person can't grammar. Is one of the stupid movie ever. The performances in this movies are so terrible. The directing and writer of the screenplay by Dale Launer are so horrendous. Wow, you cannot speak at all. Or you cannot write, I guess. The score in this movies are pathetic. I'm raving that Love Potion number 9 is disgraceful movie that you will just hate everything that you have been given in this movie. I'm laughing at this, like, review. Holy shit, that was terrible. Here's a 1 star. Lame and predictable. To make it even worse, they used young chimps in the... Oh, so they were real chimps. Which are captured as babies in the wild by killing the mother chimps and often all other adults in the group. Really? Is that true? I have no idea if that's true. There are some people here saying that they really enjoy the film, and again, I don't understand why. But it's like, you're allowed, I guess. Um, let's see here. Must be difficult making Sandra Bullock ugly. Like that was a thing that this movie was very predicated on. It's like, what? But also, it's like that was a thing back in a lot of older movies from the 90s and 2000s. Um, yeah, but that seems to be like the consensus on this film. It's not good. And it's not good, in my opinion, either. If you somehow like it, that's fine. You're allowed. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong because an opinion can't be wrong, but I don't understand it. um, yeah, I don't think this is good in any way, shape, or form. I think this movie is pretty damn bad. It's predicated on bad ideas. The execution of it is it's atrocious. The film makes the two main leads come across as completely unlikable, terrible people, and they have no chemistry as well. And the thing is, early on, it's like it had potential. It could have been good, but it just squandered it. Also, like that woman at the beginning who he tries to get with at the bar, and she denies him, but then when he gets the potion and she falls in love with him, he denies her. It's like, that's not a win. She was in the right. Like, you don't, she was right to reject you. You don't just go up to a woman at a bar and try to hit on her, try to ask to buy a drink for her, especially when you're interrupting her while she's talking to her friend, and especially when you hear what she's talking about being sick of people asking her asking to buy her a drink. Like, I had no issue with the soundtrack. In that one review I read, apparently the person did. I had no issue with the soundtrack. Nothing about that was like terrible. Um, and the acting was fine. Like Sandra Bullock was obviously the best actor in this, but I had no issue with any of the acting. None of it was like terrible. Just none of it really stood out as like amazing or anything either. But it was all about the script and everything. It wasn't even the dialogue. It was just the script in general was so bad. the movie was way too short. Like if you wanted to make anything about it better, you needed to add 20 minutes at least, preferably more. Because it's like there's just and on top of that, I haven't even mentioned the Romani woman. Like we're gonna use a slur to refer to her, which I'm again 92, it's an old movie before that really became like before people really brought awareness to that and how bad it is. But on top of that, like she is an insanely offensive stereotype. Like her entire thing is that she sells magic potions and stuff. That is crazy. That is a crazy offensive stereotype. That is so bad. And she has no other character besides that, by the way. That's her entire character. That's all she's there for. It's so awful. And again, the shit that these two did, it's like he was worse than she was. By far. He was the worst character in this. I would say even more so than Gary. He was he was literally manipulating women into false consent for sex. A bunch of women, including young college girls. Rape. It is rape. Because it's basically the same as if he coerced them into sex under them being drunk. It's basically equivalent to that. Because they could not, like, rightly consent. They were not in their right mind. I'm just... The thing is, the funny thing is, like even with pragma, like the theme of this one with the word of love from the Greek language and everything, um, it started off kind of leading into that with them, like starting to work together for the purpose of trying to figure this love potion out and to experiment with it. But their relationship wasn't built off of that. Like and their relationship didn't initially start even with that. They just kind of like started working together. But it wasn't like a relationship built out of practicality or anything. Their relationship just kind of happened because of the montage. Um, Unless Venom, maybe like you requested this one in terms of the movie itself, but also specifically for Pragma. Unless you see something in this that I didn't, because apparently that's been happening with other movies you've requested that I was kind of questioning for this month, how it related to the word for love and everything. There was like you specifically like brought up how you thought it fit with like the banker and all. If you can explain this one, I would love to hear it because I don't get it. um, Again, it felt like it was starting off that way, but it didn't actually go that way in terms of the script and the writing and all. Um, yeah, it's just I didn't like this movie. I think that's pretty clear. I actually find this movie extremely offensive and ewy. I I never want to see this movie again. So yeah, good job on that one. You probably requested this knowing I would have this reaction. So thank you for that. You probably knew that this movie would upset me and make me grossed out. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you to everyone for tuning in, as always. I'm Connie. I'm signing off. I need a drink. See y'all next time.